joined us so far. I know Tony's on there.
I'm here.
AJ
Who else
and
has
Ruby.
joined us? Ruby is here.
Teresa's here.
Teresa, okay.
Yes.
All right. Everybody, and Clarice's in here, and I'm here, and we'll just kind of go along. We'll see if some other folks join us as we're going through. In order to win yourself a gift card, you have to sit through the whole presentation, in which Cheryl will eventually unveil the secret password, and you'll have to send that secret password to me via email to win the gift card. Right now, your odds are stellar, everyone that's joined in.
Yeah.
So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll turn it over to Earl Garcia, who is our benefit representative from Legal Shield. Legal Shield and Identity Shield are two new benefits that we've had available for us this upcoming year, and they are designed to help anyone that's participating out with legal advice and protection should your identity get stolen. So Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, AJ, and thanks, Tony, for having me this afternoon. So really the purpose of our webinar today is to look at what is identity theft, how do thieves get our information, what are some steps that you can take to protect you and your family, what do you do if it happens to you. We're going to evaluate some identity theft services, and then at the end we'll overview quickly about your benefits, because I know we went over that during open enrollment. So the key thing in the webinar is to keep an open mind, that I'm not trying to scare you. I'm really trying to give you information so that you can help reduce the risk of becoming a victim of identity theft, because there is nothing that will prevent you from becoming a victim, but what we want to do is help you reduce your risk of becoming a victim of identity theft. Okay, so think about when you left your house this morning, did you lock your house? When you walked into work, did you lock your car? Did you lock your bike? Okay, and then did you lock your office? So usually when I'm in person, I'll be asking people, you know, where is your purse right now? Where is your wallet? You know, I used to work at Community College of Denver. I had an open door policy. I let people come and go as much as they wanted, and you know, I never locked my purse up. I kind of had this little cubby hole I put my purse in, and one day I came back from a meeting down the hallway, and I was getting ready to leave, and I lifted my purse, and I thought, why is my purse so light? And somebody had actually come into my office, found my cubby hole, opened up my purse, took my wallet, took 2 credit cards, went down to King Soopers, bought their Easter dinner, and took a taxi cab ride home. So we want to look at, you know, how do we lock up things? How are we doing that? And then what are you really doing about protecting your identity? Well, how are you locking up your information? So again, what do you do with your information? Because at the bottom it says anyone that has your information can do this too. So what do you do with your credit card accounts? What about your mortgage, your cars, your medical treatment, your cell phone service, utility, rent, driver's license, checking account, things on your job? You know, I work with the state of Colorado employees, and I went to a corrections, they do probation officer down in Denver, and this person at his job had all of his personal information in a file drawer. Okay, not a good place to have your personal information. Where's your passport? We have airline tickets. You know, there's so many things that we have about our information. So, you know, these thieves, they just don't want your credit. They want to get information about your life, more things about your medical is the #1 identity theft that's out there. They want to get information about your driver's license, your social security number, so they can go and sell your information. Now, people can go on the, well, not us people, but thieves can go on the black web and they can sell your social security number probably for around $6. Now, it's going to take you a lot more than $6 to fix that problem. Would you agree? So there's negative impact. It's very time consuming. It takes hundreds of hours, sometimes years, that you have to be working on this. I just met with an employee last week, and he said, you know, something happened to his wife. It was about their income taxes, and it took them 3 years. They're getting their refund from 3 years ago now. And so, you know, when do you use that time? You have to take time off from work. Do you really want to use your vacation time for that? It can have loss of employment because you're calling in sick or you're using all of your vacation. And it's expensive to clean it up. You're losing wages. You have to copy documents. You do certified mail. You have long distance charges. And, of course, an identity theft issue becomes a legal issue. And also it can ruin your reputation if something's going on, like you start getting credit card, people calling you for debt collection, you know, like you didn't pay for your ambulance ride that you took in Chicago and you've never even been in Chicago. That is an example of how that, you know, how that could ruin your reputation. Now, how do thieves get your information? Family and friends is #1 up there because over 50% of identity theft happens with somebody that you know. Whether it's a family or a friend member, you'll see a statistic later that 52% of identity theft happens in the workplace, which that could be anywhere from, you know, where do you leave your mail? Do you all have a little basket where you put mail and you leave your mail there during the day? Somebody walks in and gets your information. There's a data breach. You know, we saw last year a big surge in our ID Shield with companies that offered Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, right, because they had a data breach. Nothing you could prevent because it was a data breach. Ex-spouses, you know, just heard yesterday how the woman she was the stepmother, and she used a 7-year-old social security number to buy a mortgage, credit card debt. Well, that girl has $750,000 of debt. She's 19 years old. So, you know, that other things like that can happen. Somebody has access to your social security number. Coworkers, caregivers, data breaches, as I talked about. You know, we don't really have anything we can do to protect that. There's public records. Dumpster diving is actually an illegal activity, so no dumpster diving anymore for that. Pre-approved credit offers, you know, those just come in the mail. They're in your mailbox. One of the tips is you can call a 1-800 number and you can stop those pre-approved credit card offers. You can also go to ftc.gov. FTC stands for Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov, and you can stop those pre-approved credit offers from coming, because everything, again, is what we can do to reduce our chances of becoming a victim of identity theft. So if we're not getting those things in our mailbox anymore, then you're reducing your effort for that. You know, texting, I mean, several of you have probably been in a line somewhere, and it's just amazing to me how people will just give their information over their cell phone. I mean, anybody, if you have a good memory, could memorize a credit card number because they're giving it so loud. Even at our credit union, when you go in, they'll say, what is your passcode? And it's like, you know, I'm like whispering it, you know, and they're like, did you say it was? You know, it's like everything too loud for that. And then also we have vishing, like phishing, where people are trying to get a hold of your information. It kind of looks like an email from the credit union, but it's really not. And by the time you go in and you give the information, there are things that can pop in and everything. Public announcements, mail theft is still one of the highest ways that people get your information, even though it's low tech. Shoulder surfing, our phones used to get really teeny, now they're getting bigger and bigger, right? So somebody can be looking over your shoulder and getting your information. A skimmer, I'm going to show you an example of a skimmer. ATM mounted cameras kind of go with that skimmer for that. Fake ATM machines. Identity theft of people that have been deceased. And then, of course, survivors that are mentioned in an obituary. So if you look at this, right now we're in over 50 different databases out there. So, you have your insurance claims, we have our driver's license, so we're in the DMV. If you're a veteran, your information has been stolen many times. It's been out there. Any kind of real estate deeds, there are things that are public records for that. Your medical records is an MIB, Medical Information Bureau. Your phone number, hey, if you ever just go to Google and you put in your phone number as a Google search, all of you need to do that and see what comes up. For that, you'll probably be amazed at what comes up when you put in your phone number, not your cell number, but if you landline. Also, where's your social security number? Your address. Again, you can put in if you have a landline, you put in your landline, and your address shows up right there. Fingerprints. I went to cash a check. Somebody wrote me a check from Wells Fargo. I don't bank at Wells Fargo. I go into Wells Fargo, and they made me take a fingerprint just to cash a $20 check. Which I didn't feel real comfortable doing because I'm like, what are you going to do with that information? And they're like, well, we're a bank. And I'm like, yeah, so. And, I've heard so many horror stories about what's happened in their mortgage department that it kind of made me a little, resistance to do that. Your credit history, your birth certificate, your car registration, right? So we're in a minimum of 50 different types of databases. So identity theft is the fastest growing crime. It has been for 15 years. So there's about 2 new fraud victims every 2 seconds. Somebody becomes a victim of identity theft. Now, sometimes people say, well, I'm not in a big city, as an example, right? We're not in a big city. Well, a lot of times identity theft happens more frequently outside of a big city because people are more trusting. They have their guard down more. And here we have the 51% happens in the workplace. That was a study that was done by Michigan State. And the revenue from, identity theft for financial data went way over drug trafficking. And so it's a faceless crime, and what I mean by that is that only 5% of the criminals are ever caught. So it's easy to do, it's easy to get away with for that. So some more important facts is it's very emotional. I just think about what happened with my wallet. I couldn't even believe that somebody would go into my office, dig through my purse, and then you got to start thinking like a criminal, right? Like, where did they take my wallet? What did they do with my wallet? So I went down to the dumpster. That was before dumpster diving was illegal. And then I thought, okay, maybe they threw it in the trash. I went in the women's bathroom, dug through the trash. My wallet was at the bottom of the trash can in the women's restroom without those 2 credit cards, right? So because they had went down to King Soopers and did that. Loss of trillions, trillions of money, and not only money, but of course time. And the thing about identity theft is you are guilty until you prove that you're innocent. So that's the hardest part, because you can be saying, hey, that's not me, and you have to prove it's not you. I don't know if any of you saw that movie Identity Thief, which was hilarious, and the guy lived in Denver, and this woman became him because his name was Sandy, and, it's just hilarious. It's funny, but it's not really funny because, she had became him, and he had to prove his own innocence in that situation. So let's look at the different types of identity theft, and there's really 6 common types of identity theft, because the biggest one right now is number 6, which is the children's identity theft. And this is there's a video on YouTube, and I can send that and the identity theft tips to you at the end. I'll have my email address because I have a tip sheet. We're going to go through the tips, but I usually hand out a tip sheet. So if you email me, I'll email you that, and I'll also email you a couple of these videos with children's identity. Because what happens with children under the age of 18 is they do not have a credit, well, they should not have a credit file. Therefore, you cannot monitor that child's Social Security number. So if you look at these other 5 that are listed up here, you know, which one do you think is the most common identity theft that's happening, or the fastest growing identity theft that's happening? Most people will say the far right hand, which is financial identity theft. But financial identity theft is only 18% of identity theft. So the fastest growing, when you look at all of these, is medical identity theft, followed by Social Security, driver's license, criminal, and then financial identity theft. So let's look at what is financial identity theft. Most of you know, somebody uses your credit card, your bank account. They start new accounts in your name. They use it for utilities. Your cell phone, actually the utilities and cell phone has to combine, and the loans has to combine your Social Security number with that to do that. But these are all financial identity theft, where somebody is going to open up a new account in your name. Now here's an example of the skimmer. So you'll see up here in the left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner, where that guy's thumb is, he's putting a skimmer over top of an ATM where you would actually put in your credit or debit card into that. Now the skimmer that he's putting in there is very similar when you go to City Market and you scan your City Market card, and you're going to get a discount, right? That's a skimmer. Skimmers come in all sizes. This one's actually very large. Some of them fit in your hand. So if you go to a restaurant, they can take your credit card and skim all of your information front and back on that. So he's putting the skimmer on there, so you can see in the far right that sign that has a red on the bottom, on the top here. You can't read that whole sign because they put the skimmer on there. Now on the left-hand corner, what's happening is this is a brochure holder, but down there at the bottom is a camera. So when you go to put in your code, you put your code in there, they're going to be taking pictures of your code. And this one actually, this example is very low tech compared to now. They have high tech where they have Wi-Fi, they're sitting outside of the ATMs, and they get immediate access because they have all that set up and getting all of your information right now. So you look in the far right hand corner, it looks fairly normal, but remember, those 2 things are happening, is the skimmer and the camera is happening in that situation. So what do you want to do to reduce your risk of an ATM skimmer is you want to go to a bank. You went to Wells Fargo as an example. When you go in there to their ATMs, it does say cover the pad, right? So while you're putting in your code, you're covering the pad. Make sure you go to a bank, make sure you go to a credit union to get to an ATM. ATMs can be a private business. People can own an ATM. If you look at maybe a convenience store or a gas station, those can be privately owned by someone who can get your information. So to reduce your risk, make sure you use an ATM that's part of a bank or part of a credit union. Okay, so what about your driver's license? Well, your driver's license, it's simple to get your information. If you Google fake ID for about $100, you can get a fake ID. So let's say that I'm using AJ's information, and I go to, I don't know why I'm connecting to the Midwest right now, but I go to Milwaukee and I buy a house, I buy a car, and in some medical situations you just have to show a driver's license. So I can get a fake ID for about $100. You can upload a picture. Now, the DMV is working very hard, of course, and they just went through another revision on your driver's license. But, you know, sometimes when people, they don't know that if they're taking your driver's license information. I mean, not only could it result in lost driving privileges, but you could have your insurance canceled in that situation. So we had an employee, he worked for All Copy Products. It's a company that rents out copy machines to other companies. He came up to me after open enrollment and he said, gee, I wish I would have known about this 2 months ago. What happened is his, I'm going to call him best friend, got pulled over for a DUI, told the police officer, hey, I don't have my information with me, but here's my information, giving the employee's information to the police officer. Well, that guy went off to jail for the night, but what happened in the long run is, of course, that employee had no idea that was happening. The employee doesn't show up for court. Now there's a warrant out for his arrest. So he's driving home, or driving to deliver a copy machine. The taillight's out in the van. He gets pulled over. He gets handcuffed and arrested. And he's saying, hey, it's not me, right? And of course the police are always saying that, or always hearing that, I should say, hey, it's not me, it's not happening to me. And so we also talk about, you know, driver's license, that other uses, like I said, like sometimes getting medical attention, you need to show a driver's license for that. So now let's look at Social Security identity theft. You know, you think about, one of the questions I usually ask people is, you know, what can somebody do with your Social Security number? Okay, like everything, right? I mean, it's everything, unfortunately, is tied to that. It really wasn't the purpose of a Social Security number to tie everything to you. And honestly, I'd rather have a financial identity theft situation, because I can get a new credit card. I can get a new debit card with a new number. I cannot get a new Social Security number. I mean, you cannot get that. It's very hard to get that. Let's say undocumented workers are going to be using your Social Security number. Ex-cons use that. Taxes is one of the biggest things. I mean, that has grown in the last 3 years for people to get their taxes back. That has grown every year that people went to file for their taxes and somebody else already got their taxes before they did. And it also can affect your Social Security benefits, you know, when you get ready to retire. If I don't know if maybe you have a private, like the state employees have PARA, so I don't know if you have a private, but even if you have a private one and you work outside of you know, your job right now, and you had jobs previously, it could affect your Social Security benefits. So medical identity theft, you know, we had the big data breach. Even before the big data breach happened, medical identity theft was the fastest growing identity theft out there. Now, why would somebody want your medical insurance? Number one is they still don't have insurance, right? Even though we have different policies now, there are still people out there that do not have medical insurance. Number two is somebody has a drug problem, so they're going to use your medical insurance and they're going to buy drugs that way. Number three is maybe they're going to sell drugs and use those for this. So they're going to access your health benefits because they don't want their disease going on their medical record, but it goes on your medical record and then you do not have access to that. So you know, it's not correct medical information. Somebody could be using your medical insurance and they say they have type A blood, and then all of a sudden you have type B. That could be life-threatening. There was a person in Vail. He actually owned an aviation company. He had like 2 airplanes. His name was Joe Ryan was his name, Joe Ryan, and he went to get a part for his airplane. So he called down to Southwest Denver, and the guy was taking his order, and he goes, okay, what's your Social Security number? And of course, Joe's in a hurry, so he gives him the number, and he goes, okay, well, what's your date of birth? And gives him the date of it. So anyways, that person that took the order ended up becoming Joe Ryan, used his medical insurance, died, and then Joe Ryan now had a $50,000 medical bill. And he had to prove that, hey, he still had his leg. His leg wasn't amputated. Once again, it goes back to you have to prove that it's not you. And there's another one about medical identity theft, young woman, where somebody had used her medical insurance and she cannot get it off her record. It's very devastating. Okay, criminal identity theft. You know, this is, and I think I talked about this a little bit in the moments. You know, you think about if you, in your position, have to be licensed or you have to be certified in the state of Colorado, and somebody uses your information and that criminal accusation or that criminal charge goes on your record, you may not be able to get certified or licensed again. We had that with a physical therapist where somebody had used her Social Security number. She was arrested for drugs and her driver's license that went on her record. So when she went to apply for her license, she could not get her license for physical therapy. So it took her 3 years. She couldn't work for 3 years because that happened. So outstanding arrest warrants, temporary imprisonment, right? Public records that could impact your employment opportunities, security clearances. Hey, nobody wants to be on the no-fly list, right? I know a person that somebody used his information and he's on the no-fly list but it wasn't him. Somebody had used his information for that. So, and then insurance premiums. There's so many scams that are going on right now about somebody using your insurance to get the money, for that. So what are some tips? So let's treat your personal information as if it's loose change or not as if it's loose change. Let's not be throwing it around everywhere. Now there are, like I just got one of these the other day, privacy policies. And you know, sometimes you don't really think about this, but when you get a credit card, I can't think what, it wasn't a credit card that I got, but it talked about the privacy policies. Now, if you have to respond to that to opt out of it, because it automatically defaults into where they can sell your information. Credit cards especially. Credit cards, you know, they work with the credit bureaus, and that's how you get all those pre-approved. Your mail. Okay, what happens to your mail? Is your mail sitting out in the mailbox? One of the things that I did is I have a UPS store. All my mail goes there. My business mail, my personal mail, because I'm gone most of the day. You know, I live in Wheat Ridge. We have a mailbox out by the end of our driveway, and you know, people can just come by. Email, passwords, you know, my iPhone yesterday, I mean, I spent an hour trying to do my double security on my iPhone. I'm like, when did this start happening, right? So it's always looking at your passwords and thinking about, you know, they have tips and things about how to do that with your passwords. And the contacts are your service provider for your computer, for your internet. What do you do with your trash? Now, Friday is our trash day for us. So once again, we have to wheel it out to the side of the road. You know, the trash guy comes. All right, well, we used to put our trash out on Thursday nights, but the sidewalk is public property. So people could actually take stuff out of my trash can. It would not be illegal. So everything that has your information on it, the number one tip is buy a shredder and get a shredder that's cross-cut or diamond, not strips. If it's strips, people will tape your information together. Colorado is number 7th in the nation for methamphetamine use. So they're going to do whatever it takes to get your information. So make sure that you are shredding any kind of applications. I shred anything that, like, even if it's LL Bean, a catalog that comes, I will shred that my name, not the whole thing, but take the sheet that has your name and the code that's associated with your name, because people can end up using that and getting a credit card, and then it all starts just by them getting a credit card. Now, your medical information, I mean, our dog takes more medication than my husband and I together. Now, the thing about that is every prescription bottle, again, I take a Sharpie and I black out all the information, because even though she's our dog, you can still use that to get prescriptions. And don't share your health plan information with anybody, even if they say it's going to be a free health service. I just talked to this guy last night, and he's talking about, how employers can save money. And anyways, it just really wasn't sounding quite right. So just don't share your information. Shredding, we talked about that. Now, if you look at a credit card, a debit card, or a check, when you look at the order of how you want to be using that, credit card is number one, is going to be the safest because you do have a little guarantee there. On your credit card statements, you have up to 60 days to let them know there's a deficiency on your credit card statement. A debit card, it's gone. Your money is gone. On a check, gone faster. Now, some people, I don't even use checks because on your check, somebody can go to Office Depot or Office Max, Staples, and they can buy a software program, and basically all they need to know is your account number. They can go and get the routing number. That's public information. All they need is your account number. They put it in because that's what it's going to read. So checks, look at, do you really need to be writing a check? Okay, today I want you to think about how much information is in your purse, in your wallet, in your briefcase. Do you really need to have 10 credit cards in your purse? Do you need to have your checkbook today? Are you going to write a check? Probably not. And if you are going to write a check, then like yesterday, I did have to write a check at an auto place because they don't take credit cards. So I put my checkbook in my purse. When I left, I took my checkbook out of my purse when I got home. So, you don't need to be, once again, that's about reducing your risk for that. Public announcements and obituaries, limited information, again, limit what you carry. Again, what do you have in your glove box, right? What do you have in your car? It takes between 3 and 5 seconds for somebody to punch out the window and take information out of your car. So leave your Social Security number and your medical cards at home in a secure place. Before I got my fireproof safe, I used to keep my Social Security number in the freezer, because the freezer doesn't burn, so I would keep it in there. Social networking sites, we have to be so careful. I'm going to show you this thing about going on vacation. We have to be so careful about what we do with information on that. And then, of course, children, grandchildren, all their information, people are putting that on there. I gave you this earlier about ftc.gov. You can also go to annualcreditreport.com. Now, there's a lot of things, like if you went into Google and you said free credit report, this is the one, annualcreditreport.com is the one that's free. Okay, you don't have to put in a credit card number to get that. There is another one, Karma, that's a good one. So those two are the only ones that you want. If you need to get your Social Security statements, your driving record, you could go and get that and make sure there's nothing on that. Here's the toll-free number to opt out of pre-screened offers. So what happens is when you call that number, it's going to ask you for your Social Security number, because that's how all the credit cards at the credit bureaus, the credit repositories, are all tied to that. Now, you have to call in separate for your spouse. So you can't do more than one when you call into that. And, just make sure you're not giving out your Social Security number to anybody. And those of you that have small children, do they really need your child's Social Security number at the daycare? If they do, why do they need that? That's what I would ask. Why do you need that? How are you going to use it? How are you going to share it? How are you going to be protecting it? I went to the dentist, this was probably about 9 months ago, and she's like, okay, I need your Social Security number. So I wrote it down on the sticky, and so she looks up my information. I go, now what are you going to do with that sticky? And she said, I'm going to shred it. And I watched her shred it. So, we just have to watch out what are people doing with our information. And this is a lot of information on the screen, and I will send this to you in an email. But just a few things about going on vacation, because we're all looking for doing that. Make sure the company, if you're booking travel plans, is legitimate. Decide what you're going to take with you. Don't take those 10 credit cards. take 1 or 2 max credit cards with you. Clean out your wallet. You don't need to be taking a lot of information with you. And then the things that you do leave at home, make sure that you secure your house. You know, maybe somebody can come over and watch your house. And the number one thing is do not put on Facebook that you're going on vacation. And do not put pictures while you're on vacation on Facebook unless you have somebody staying at your house, because that is just an invitation that says, come on in, we're gone, and take what you want for that. The other thing is when you're somewhere else, even if you're going for coffee somewhere, the Wi-Fi hotspots, I mean, people are getting your information from that. It's free. Well, it's free for a reason, right? So people are getting your information. So the main thing is about, I think, about social media. I just cannot believe how many people put so much information on there about going on vacation for that. So let's talk a little bit about evaluation of identity theft services. There's a restoration. Now, the restoration is what your benefit is versus a reimbursement. And if you think about a reimbursement is very similar to your car insurance. You get in a car accident, you go someplace to get it fixed, you have to pay for it, the insurance company reimburses you. So you're still doing a lot of the work, you're still, you know, dealing with all of that. With us, the restoration is a private licensed investigator. If you get a breach service, like Target gave out a breach service, basically they're monitoring the financial piece, and we know that's only 18%. So do you have to sign a limited power of attorney to have an investigator work on your behalf? Those are the questions. Private licensed investigator. Do you have access to a legal counsel? Is it going to cover all 6 types of identity theft? Is it one price point, or is it, you know, it keeps adding up as you have more and more people or more and more children, or is it just one point? Now, your benefit is through Kroll. Kroll's the world's largest risk management company. They've been around for over 43 years, and what they're going to do with ID Shield is they're going to monitor everything that we just went through, all those 6 areas. They're just not going to monitor your credit card. They're just not going to monitor your financial. They're going to monitor all parts of your life. And so this covers you, covers your spouse, significant other, domestic partner, and children under the age of 18, because once they turn 18, now they have their own credit file. You all 24/7 emergency hotline for ID Shield that you can call and talk to somebody. Now, the free mobile app, good news for all of you, was just upgraded on June 7th. So it's faster, it has more, it's monitoring more for that, because your benefits will become effective July 1. So if something happens where you need restoration of your identity, you're assigned a private licensed investigator. It's going to do whatever it takes as long as it takes, and it's a $5 million guarantee. And that means they're going to work on any area of identity theft. And again, if you just have questions like something is weird, or, you know, I had this one woman call in because she started getting these voter registration letters for a person that, of course, did not live at her house. So she wanted to make sure that's it. Also get a free credit report, a credit score, you have your monitoring, you have the consultation, you have the $5 million service guarantee. In addition to that, you also have access to the legal plan. This covers you, your spouse, significant other, children up to the age of 26. So Kroll actually came to Legal Shield. It's been about 14 years now, and said 70% of identity theft requires access to an attorney. They said, we can't do what you did for 35 years. We just want to partner with you. And so we offer that. Now, one of the other things you can get done with your legal plan is your will. That's also included in that part. So what is your benefit? And your special password is chicken noodle soup. Okay, per month, if you just went with ID Shield Family, it's $18.95, and the individual is $8.95. The legal only is $18.95. If you combine the family, ID Shield and legal, you get another discount. That ID Shield actually goes on to $14.95. And I know Tony and AJ have information. If you are interested in getting more information about this, the enrollment fee is waived for that. Okay, so here's my info, and remember, if you would like that tip sheet, email, just go ahead and email it to me. Actually, I can also probably email it to AJ and get that over to him for that. So I do want to thank you all. If you have any questions, give me a call, email me your questions, and thank you so much for being on our webinar. I hope to see all of you in the fall and do more of an introduction and more info on your benefit. So thank you so much for being on the webinar today. And again, email me, call me if you have some questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.